We're in the middle of the kitzur. At the end of the third line in the kitzur. Okay, it's a mention of what we had been discussed. Dann beginnt sie mit hitlabshut bekumpf und guf. At the end of that line, because that in the mokir also, even the way it is in the nefesh, it is chokhmah, even though it is much superior as pshitus relative to the chokhmah as it's mislabish in the keili, in the guf. Nevertheless, within its own domain, it is inyan from chokhmah. But in the nefesh itself, it's chokhmah, as we discussed yesterday. The principle how chokhmah is relative within the nefesh itself is pertinent even within the nefesh itself. Recognizing its mokir. Lochein, thus, hu bikli, when this oil is ultimately mislabish in the keili, which means that now it is affected by the principle, by the presence of the keili, a completely different reality. Harei hu kim hus chokhmah hakeili. So then, in these hitlabshus, it is transformed, so to speak, to become chokhmah according to the parameters of the keili. Which is really a tremendous transformation from the way the chokhmah is in the nefesh, inside the nefesh, the way the nefesh perceives the inyan from chokhmah, the way it is imbued in the keili. But being that in essence it has the quality of chokhmah, that can be translated on the lower level of the keili. Which we discussed yesterday. וכמו שהמוקר Then similarly, just as in the mokum, the way it is in the nefesh, although it is chokhmah. What do you mean by meisha chokhmah? It means that there is a perception. It is not just a presence, but there is a perception. But, despite the fact that it's chokhmah, hu bibchinas pshitus. It has, the chokhmah itself is in a pshitus manner. Which means that there is not the element of discovery in that chokhmah. It's bipshitus, it is what we call an obvious reality. Similarly, when he translates in a keili, the oil that's in the keili, even though it becomes kimhus a keili like the keili, but the etzem, it is be'etzem u'b'chinas b'li ma legabe ha-keili. It remains b'li ma relative to the kelim. It is completely beyond the grasp on the keili.
Excuse me. It was said on the chokhmah, which is in the muk, that is the kind of pshitus, that it's not in the form of discovery. So that we did say that chokhmah means like it's recognizing. It means that.
What again? It means what?
The whole was discussed that the whole the meaning of chokhmah, even in the nefesh, is that it appreciates, means that it's not just it's something like from the outside, which is it's appreciating it because it discovers it or something similar. How is it? I mean,
no, I didn't hear the question. How is it what?
How is it appreciating if it's not in the form of discovering?
If it's not in the form of
discovering.
Oh. We tried to identify chokhmah or seichel from the nefesh perspective and contrasting it with the guf. The guf, okay, we said many times that when the Rebbe created light, so first light is in contrast to darkness. There's cheshech and then there's light. But then, as you get to understand the light itself, that light is not a light that is identifiable only in contrast to darkness. In contrast to darkness means that you have light so that you could see the object in front of you. But then we said no, because the oil shenivra b'yimreishin, the real oil is not in contrast to darkness. The real oil is a transformation of darkness. It's not identifiable, it's not defined by the fact that you could see things around you. Yom, as we said, we speak about it all the time. How do you identify day? It's not in contrast, it's not a discovery. There's no discovery element in day. This is the way it is, the chokhmah, the way it is in the nefesh. In the guf, in order for the guf to appreciate and to recognize that there is light, he has to be able to see an object that he can touch. But inside the nefesh, it's a completely different thing. It's not a discovery element. And the reason for that is that the principle of light and the principle of chokhmah and forget about the end. The principle of chokhmah to the nefesh makes perfect good sense. To the goof, it's a perplexing thing. How can you see an object that is so far away from you and you can't touch it? And you know it without touching it. But from the nefesh perspective, that's not a problem at all. Because the reality that the nefesh relates to is not limited to its own place, to where it is, but it is recognizing the total reality. And therefore the fact that I could see things, that there is knowledge from a distance, is not at all a perplexing thing.
But what is the meaning here of Chokhmah? The Nefesh itself knows it without Chokhmah. Chokhmah means that he is like, it's not it.
So we explained that the principle of Chokhmah in the Nefesh is that this reality that it recognizes is not an accident, is not meaningless, but it is a reflection actually from a higher source of the etzem itself. Similar to what we say about the host and the guest, that even though the guest gets his meal, but what he recognizes beside his chokhmah is that the meal is, the significance of this meal is not the meal, the touchable meal, but where it's coming from. And this is what the nefesh recognizes at the higher level. That its own reality is due to the fact that there is the source for this reality. This is the chokhmah shebenefesh. And then that chokhmah is mislabish, that nefesh mislabish in the guf, and it translates this inyan at the guf level.
Okay, I understand now, but my mistake was that, because we said yesterday that the neshama zachalik elaka means like to say that it's the source itself, but now we're saying that it's just the chokhmah recognizes that this neshama, this zachalik elaka, this has a source.
I did not say that neshama is the source itself.
So when we say chalik elaka, what does that mean?
As a matter of fact, chalik elaka means it is godly, but it also has a craving. It wants to unite to its source.
But how would we say when we say chalik and we're saying it's not the source? How does it go together?
A chalik is a chalik. It's coming from there, but it's not the source itself.
Part of it but separate. Part of it but separate, chilek. but yet somehow separate.
Yeah, it was.
Does Mechalek a part of it?
One second. Let me just put this in front. This is not what we're learning here now, because if we're going to talk about it as without a reference, we're never going to end. In the nefesh there is chokhmah, and the principle of chokhmah in the nefesh is that the chokhmah recognizes that there's a source to its awareness. This is the principle. End of story. And then when the nefesh is established in the goof, the similar Inyan is recognized in the goof. What is it recognized in the goof? That everything that one sees has a deeper, a broader, and a superior meaning and significance at a much lower level than in things in nefesh, but nevertheless, within the goof parameters, within the goof domain, it is Inyan from Chochmah. And the very principle, we have to think for ourselves a little bit. Otherwise, we're just going to be not understanding even if it's explained. You take a human being and put him in prison. He's miserable. Why is he miserable? Because he can't run away, he can't practice football. Why is he miserable? And even if you give him the opportunity to play football in the prison, he's still miserable. Why? Anyone?
Because a person belongs everywhere, and he's not free to go everywhere.
Correct, but not complete. It's not to go everywhere. He is dissociated from the everywhere. He's identified, his whole mitzvah is identified within the confines of the prison. As we said many times, when you free him from the prison, he does not start running around everywhere. It's not a question of going everywhere. He is told, this is outside of your domain. You can look at it, but you can't be there. Which means it's not you. Chokhmah is the source of all seichel, and what it, as a source for the seichel, what it provides for the seichel is that you should understand that everything, even on the smallest scale, it's valid only because it is part of a bigger reality. Like we said, a bed that allows you to lie down and rest is not a bed if it is not in your personal home. The body is satisfied with the bed in a hotel, but the chokhmah is not. So here we have the chokhmah shebenefesh, translated as chokhmah in the guf, and yet it is in the guf, but it remains an infant chokhmah. What does the guf need more than a bed? And then the Rebbe says further, so that when it comes into the guf, it becomes, in the keili, it becomes kimhus chokhmah da keili. It becomes chokhmah at the lower level, the chokhmah at the level that the keili can appreciate this chokhmah. But relative to the keili, it's chokhmah. Ukmeisha ha-moker, and just as in the motor, on the flip side, ime yesha chokhmah, despite the fact that it is an infant chokhmah, which means there is a perception. Harei hu bebchinas pshitus. But this chokhmah is bebchinas pshitus, which means it is not a chokhmah due to discovery, as we said before. Not chokhmah due to contrast, but it's understood directly the way it is. So likewise, the oir that is in the keili, be'etzem, in essence, hu bechinas bli ma legabe hakeili. The oil remains as a blima without a tangibility. Legabe hakeili, relative to the keili. Let us skip the parentheses for a moment so that we can conclude the scene. And this explains why in the oiros it is possible the inyan from achlifu duchtayu, because the oil remains bli erech to the keili, and even though it has a definition, but it's bli erech, and therefore achlifu duchtayu, it is pshitus. There remains an element of pshitus in the oil, and that's why it's possible achlifu duchtayu. V'im kein, and thus Harei gam ha'oiros hein bebchinas esesphiris. Thus it comes out that the oiros too have the element of esesphiris, and yet hein bebchinas blima legabe hakeili. The esesphiris, which means that the individual spheres, chokhmah bina das, and yet still legabe hakelim they are completely without definition. Okay, we're not going to revisit this whole thing again because we went through before, and I know every time you touch it, it becomes a new seder. But we the point was touched. To whatever extent we sense it, we'll sense it in Mitzvah more. All right, the thing is like this. I have to run because I have to prepare for the minyan in the house. And whoever can come, please.
Do you have a minyan there?
I hope so.
la